May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Please be seated. That is a lot, right? Today is a day of enormous contrast in the church. Peaks and valleys of joy and horror, celebration and grief, activity and paralysis, and community and isolation. We begin with the Liturgy of the Palms from the high point up on the Mount of Olives in Bethphage, all the way down where Jesus directs his disciples to organize a ragtag, but really enthusiastic parade. They shout hosannas and wave palms and leafy branches all the way down to the Garden of Gethsemane, through the Kidron Valley, and then back up Mount Moriah to the walled city of Jerusalem. But you notice that today in the gospel, we did not, in the Liturgy of the Palms in Luke's gospel, there aren't any palms and there aren't any leafy branches. What we have instead are cloaks that are thrown down to cushion the path of Jesus as he walks and to saddle the donkey on which he rides. And we have thrown down our ribbons because we knew that cloaks might cause some stumbling in the aisle. But it's interesting to note that even though you do read about leafy branches in the other two Gospels, the other two synoptic Gospels, Matthew and Mark, it's leafy branches, not palms, that we hear about. And yet these are the palms of our memories and our tender faith in our childhood, what we remember. But palms didn't actually come to Jerusalem. They're not native to the inland. They were brought in the 1960s and planted outside Damascus Gate into the old city. So palms are more common now in the city of Jerusalem, but they had to come from the coast over by Jaffa. They waved leafy branches instead, as is common in many parts of Africa in a celebration. So we ended with the Passion narrative that we just read. Jesus has been crucified on Golgotha, a hill in the granite quarry on Mount Moriah, across the Kidron Valley from Bethphage, which was the start of the Palm Sunday walk. The Book of Common Prayer calls this day the Sunday of the Passion, Palm Sunday, holding the celebratory enthusiasm of the Liturgy of the Palms in tension with the deep horror of the Passion narrative. We read the Passion narrative to set the stage for Holy Week, our liturgical journey through the final days of Jesus' life to the wondrous mystery of the resurrection. And while we stand now with Jesus' acquaintances at a distance watching these things, as Luke's Passion narrative ends, we really need to return to the beginning of the parade route, back up in Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, to help us understand what comes next for us. Luke's Gospel's Liturgy of the Palms reading starts in Jericho, way down low in the Jordan Valley, about a day's walk up to Jerusalem. After telling a parable to the crowd, Luke's Gospel tells us, Jesus went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. And this is where things get interesting. While Jesus has been out front throughout his ministry, eating with sinners, crossing boundaries of custom, culture, gender, ethnicity, race, religion, he reverses these things when he gets to Bethany and Bethphage. It's time for Jesus' followers to learn to lead. And Jesus sends two of the disciples on ahead. Go into the village ahead of you, Jesus says in Luke's Gospel, and as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it, just say this, the Lord needs it. So those who were sent departed and found it just as he had told them. This must have been terrifying. As preacher Marianne McKibben Dana writes, here are two disciples sent into a town where they aren't known with no reason at all to think that they won't be arrested as donkey thieves. Were these disciples expert in parade organization, supply chain management, donkey training? Did they have any experience at all in the unprecedented conflict of belonging and believing that is about to unfold for the first time? Clearly no. And yet, it all happened just as Jesus said it would. They had been followers until that moment, walking behind Jesus, constantly questioning things that were unfamiliar to them in their lived experience. Is it really okay to heal on the Sabbath day? Wait, what? I thought the rule was we couldn't eat with tax collectors and sinners. It's not appropriate for a woman to touch even the hem of your garment, Lord, besides which she's hemorrhaging. All Jesus' answers and all those examples and all those parables and us looking on now has equipped the disciples and us looking on now to keep following Jesus, even when we can no longer see him out front, leading the way. And this is just as true for us today as it was for the disciples more than 2,000 years ago. Just because we're not familiar with traveling by donkey or the weather in Jerusalem at this time of year doesn't mean that this is not about us. It's all about us, now and always. Preacher Tom Long writes, that is surely one of the reasons we are given the rather odd account of the disciples being sent to fetch a colt for Jesus. Strange, isn't it? How in the midst of the great and suspenseful drama of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, Luke devotes part of the narrative to fussing about this rather peripheral detail of transportation. But of course, that's not a peripheral detail. Our very lives are formed with essential interwoven details, real in the moment, on the ground choices of how to live, how to work, and care for our families and communities. The good news we've been given is how to live them out together in community, loving God with all our heart, all our mind, and all our strength, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. We see this in the story of the disciples' small obedience in organizing the Palm Sunday parade that is performed under the umbrella of Jesus' great obedience. When they go ahead into the next village to get the colt, they do as they're told. And when they do, the ragged and tattered ribbons, all the stray details of their lives are woven into the great story of redemption. Yes, the Palm Sunday parade ends on Golgotha, as we read in the Passion narrative today, with all of us looking on from a distance, frozen in horror. And yet Jesus has shown us the way in our journey toward Easter. It's made up of small obediences performed under the umbrella of Jesus' great obedience. All during Lent, we've flown our telltales of affirmation and gratitude on the fence outside. What gives us joy? Our favorite parts of the liturgy, our community, where we live. And then last week, what gives us hope? We've written our joys and hopes on ribbons of every kind and width and color and texture. As different in texture and appearance as all of us. After today, we'll gather up those ribbons and we'll wash them and iron them, along with the red ones we've thrown out today in our path. We'll weave them into a welcome flag for Emmanuel. Some of you have asked, very reasonably I have to admit, some of you have asked how we'll get all of these different lengths and widths and textures of ribbons woven together. I have no idea. I can't tell you how, but I have faith that we will, just as we, with all our diversity, are woven together into the fabric of our community. It's not important that the welcome flag be uniform. What matters for the ribbons and for our whole community is that we're woven together. And really, do any of us know how to do any of this? Build and nurture Emmanuel as the community center that Natalie Bayard Brown imagined? Transform this glorious building into a year-round, air-conditioned home for the whole community. Dream and pray into being the community bridge that looks like Ralph Adams Cram himself might have built it. Imagine how to carry all the marvelous things we've learned with Randy into our future. No, we don't know how to do any of this, any more than I know how we'll weave the welcome flag from all our ribbons. But I have faith that together we can and will. Jesus has told us to go on ahead to the next village and tell them the Lord needs it. And Jesus' great obedience has prepared us for these times. Amen.